Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Thursday afternoon. It's another show on the iNetrepreneur Radio Network. My name is Robert Jones. It says it right there, iNetrepreneur Network founder and owner. I just feel like, I'm really just the birth mother to the whole organization, because it really is the people that create the outstanding feeling of this organization and community. We're about 2,000 strong in 20 different countries around the world. And they once said that the sun never set on England. I like to say that the sun never sets on the iNetrepreneur Network. And I'm glad that you're here with us today. I'd like to talk about a few housekeeping items of what's going on in the Network Together family, or the iNetrepreneur Network family. And the first one, I glow about this. I rejoice about this. I am so wonderfully giddy about this. And this is our Unchain Yourself Professional Women's Conference that's coming up July 28th from 9 to 5 p.m. It's January 28th, 9 to 5 p.m. We'll have about 160 to 175 women entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers. And you know what? A few good men. We even allow men to also celebrate our stellar women in our lives, whether we work for them or are married for them or know them through family. So I'm excited about that. Again, that is coming up on July 28th in Gilbert, Arizona. There's more information on our website at ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. I also am pretty excited that we are still reserving pages for the international best-selling book series, The Art of Connection. Our first book went international best-selling 14 times. Our second book went international best-selling 29 times. And we're really excited because our third book will probably break the records of the first two. It's in the Library of Congress. It's helped create 180 first-time authors, and of those 180 first-time authors, about 150 of them are women entrepreneurs. And that's very exciting for me, being raised by a single mom. I support women who go out there and just bring it, and they're there to crush the barriers that have been put on them before, and I am here to hold them up high. And this book series is really where it starts with everything. It's The Art of Connection, and this third book in the series is The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Transformational Quotes. And who has not had some form of transformation over the last 3 years or so? So please go to 365daysoftransformational.quotes.com and find out more information. Again, I talked about this at Network Together or ntevents.net. Again, ntevents.net. You can find academy classes, events, summits, meetings, and so much more. We put on about 1,000 of them a year, so there's always someone to meet out there, both in person and virtual. Also, like us on our Facebook. It's just facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. And again, once you spell it, you'll know how to say it. So a little complicated word there. Also, please, we have 43,000 subscribers to our magazine. It's the iNetrepreneurMagazine.com. It celebrates all the members and some key quality guests in print and in virtual readings. So please look out for that. But you know what? No more waiting. I am excited to bring on our first guest. She is a professional through and through. She's a heart-centered, like-minded spirit with me. That is Molly Ann Summers, and I'm so excited to bring you on today, Molly Ann. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, Robert. I appreciate it so much.
Well, I appreciate, you just coming on to the show and being here with me. I'm glad you've seen the show, in previous episodes. You know a little bit about what to expect. I just want to remind everyone that I'm here with Molly Ann Summers. She's founder and owner of Summers for Direction and Healing. She's a certified professional coach, life coach, business coach. She'll get all that in there for you. But what's really neat for me is I get to talk to about her energy healing. And it's a place that's really near and dear to my heart. She has been trained and or mentored by Jack Canfield, John Demartini, and Alan Cohen. So, I mean, talk about great company, Molly. And how did you accomplish that?
Through the coach that I had right after my divorce, Connie Costa, she actually put me in touch directly with Dr. John Demartini. And then through a women's organization, I've met and worked a little bit with Jack Canfield. And so connections.
I mean, great connections. John Demartini has been, he's actually submitted articles in our iNetrepreneur magazine. He's one of our special people that come in here and help our entrepreneurs get to a higher vibration. We also had Jack Canfield's cohort, Mark Victor Hansen, has also, contributed articles to our magazine as well. And so I think we're both in good company, don't you think?
Yes, we are.
To start the show, and I really want to open up who you are, and why you do for the world. One of the things that I always say, Molly Ann, is this: I always look at God in such a way where we are already given our gifts. Each and every one of us in the world, we're all delivered into this world with unique superpowers, which I call them gifts. And so many of the time, what it really is that we're not really looking for our gifts. What it really we're doing is we're looking for the pathways to use our gifts best. And so in your childhood, I always like to start there. And I was just wondering, what was your family life like? And, where were you born and grow up? And, just tell about maybe some interesting dreams that you might have had.
Okay, thank you. I was actually born in California, in Petaluma, California, but when I was 5 months old, we moved to Oregon. And for the most part, I lived very rural area. So I've been blessed to be able to go through this transition with this whole computer age. When I was young, we not only had landlines, I had a party line.
Wow.
On the phone and you say to your neighbor, Sally, I need to use the phone. So it's a completely different world now than I grew up in. I grew up in very rural America.
Well, and sometimes in a very rural America, don't you learn a lot of things about you being neighborly and relying on each other, and maybe even a foundation of a little bit of etiquette that we could all probably even use in this day and age?
Absolutely, absolutely. And families had a closeness there, because we had to rely on each other. We had to work with each other to make things happen. So, yeah, I think it really affected the family as well. And it has an awful lot to do with kind of my energy soul work comes from where I grew up in that type of environment.
Now, when you were growing up, young, did you seek, counsel from your parents? Did you get mentored by them maybe in a certain way or modeled at them? Or did you have other people in your life that you kind of look to? Some people have a grandfather or a grandmother or maybe an aunt or an uncle. Who are some of those people that you relied on to kind of help you spearhead your growth as a child?
Thank you so much. I'd love to talk about this. Actually, my mama was kind of ill through part of my growing up, but I had an older brother. He was 10 years older, and one 6 years older, and one 6 years younger. And my brothers, I definitely was a spoiled little princess. But all my brothers I love dearly. My oldest brother, I feel maybe being so much older, was almost kind of like a surrogate father to me, and he was the world to me and had a huge influence, very, very big influence on what I do and why I do it.
Well, and were these in the form of talks, or did he do like, collaborative play space with you, or was it just, a way where you just were seeing how he lived his life, bringing his own character, bringing his own presence, or is it a combination of each that made him great in your eyes?
1,000%. Some of the things I'll get into the energy connection he and I had, which very much has a lot to do with what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
But in addition to that, I'll get into that in a minute. He was so funny. He was just so much fun and so funny. For instance, we lived in the city before we moved out to the country. We were kind of back and forth, and there was on the news about a robbery close by. So he pretended literally be crawling the woodwork, scared and making me laugh and everything. And he was always there to save the day for me. When I got in trouble for writing maybe some naughty words out on the street I didn't know were naughty, my mama said I had to go out and clean that up. Well, he came out and took over for me, cleaned it all up for me.
And see, those are the things, those are the experience that, I wish that every child had in their life. Having brothers and sisters that created a safe place for them to go and grow. And it's like what I talk about our entrepreneurial network. My goal is to create a safe, place for every entrepreneur to go so they can grow. Because a lot of times, when you're out there and you're on the loan and you're trying to sort through, the different people that could come into your life, some are there, they can be additive, and some of them can be subtractive. And when you have, such a family or people that are in your life at a young age, I think in certain ways it helps get you on a head start on, being the who of you. And I think that's so important to find ourselves in that who of you. But in other ways, schooling's another big part of your life. Did you go to the same schools as well, or did you go to different schools, or did you have different teachers that might have, imparted some type of wisdom with you?
Yes. Again, for the most part, I was in rural California, Oregon. And it was a town that literally was a one-horse town. It had a rock quarry, it had a gas station, and it had a mom and pop store, and that was it. And then
Oh, wow.
the only school was a grade school that went up to sixth grade. So I will never forget my sixth grade teacher. She had the hugest influence on me. I, being with three brothers, was kind of a tomboy. And she had the biggest influence on me, becoming a lady, I think. And I'll always have a little tomboy in me, but, she really had an influence on me being a lady. I'll never
Well,
forget. Mrs.
you know,
Collins.
and yeah, I'm 57 years old, and so I really feel like I'm in a very interesting part of my life because I can remember, my early childhood, and when I was a child, a boy was a boy and a girl was a girl, and we had very defined roles, and take it like a man, or live like a woman, or and I think that there's a beauty to that. And I also think that there's a limitation to that. And I'm one where I believe that we should all embrace diversity, but we should all work towards unity. Would you agree with that?
100%. 100%. I do not think that men and women are the same. I think we're absolutely equal, but I believe we're not the same. Yet we both will bring to the situation the gifts of each. So,
Yeah, one of the things that my mom always taught me, and she taught multicultural non-sexist education. She said, Robert, the one thing that the world needs to learn is this: it's not a man thing, it's not a woman thing, it's a person thing. And the sooner that we can all understand that, the sooner that we can all move forward with velocity. And it's one of the things that I take with to me this day. And really, man, it's one of those things. Even in the organization itself, all of our chapter heads are man and woman led. And I did that because I always wanted to create a space where it wasn't that we would just talk about it, because I think true action through intention, shows but what by what people see, not just by what they hear. And it's one of the things that I tell entrepreneurs all the time. You are not going to be, or no one is going to sell to you if they don't know who you are, and if they don't know, especially in the networking, in the personal space. And as a coach, and as a healer, it probably doesn't get any more personal than that.
absolutely, 100%. That's the fundamental core of my life coaching, is really honoring and valuing who you are as a person. And until you do that, you're not going to have abundance in any area of your life. You have to have abundance in how you feel about yourself.
And it's really so tough. This is what drives me crazy, because we have to. I feel like sometimes, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit not emotional, but I feel like it's coming on. But this is where it really just it really drives me crazy because so many people, they're so beautiful, but they just lack sometimes acceptance. And it's the acceptance of self. And sometimes I just want to shake them and say, you are perfectly you. You don't need to look any different. You don't need to do any different. You don't need to say any different. It's just accepting yourself at such a level that you're ready to be seen. And I think that's what you do, is you help bring people into light, don't you?
Robert, I have an expression that I think fits so much with what you just said. Oftentimes, what I will say to people is you don't have to earn your divine
Mm.
right to be happy and to be loved.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I just have been going through, because I've been working through some of my energies, and my Reiki master, and I believe that spirituality is a part of business. I don't believe that our life is on and off switches, where we're on as a parent, off as an entrepreneur, on as someone who's spiritual, off as someone spiritual, on as someone who's love, and off as someone in love. I mean, these things are all tied, they're all there, they're all the flow of energy. And one of the things that I myself have been working on is not being so hard on myself, understanding what self grace is. you know for me, self grace is being okay and engaged and loving every moment, instead of having that voice behind me that always says, did I say the wrong thing, did I look the wrong way, did I do the wrong thing? I mean, is that not true?
Yes, yes. I think that's kind of well, I don't want to say natural, because if you think about it, when we're born, when we're little, we don't feel we have to earn to be loved. We know we're loved. Something happens in the transition through life where we start to feel like we have to earn what is our divine blessing, you know?
it,
And so, yes,
it
with that, I do feel that people, that's where I work with them, is to kind of, I say, let go and let God, and just know you're loved and you have a divine right to be you.
You know, absolutely, and it's so funny once you really start feeling, and sometimes I say, can you learn how to love? Can you learn accounting? Can you learn how to have compassion? Can you learn web development? One of the things I say is, we may ask the functional questions all the time of, can we learn it? But I also think that we can learn other things. And one of my paths right now that I'm really going into is learning the discovery of grace. And it's something that can be learned and practiced too, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And by grace, I I feel that that's what I associate grace with, is kind of a calmness and a receiving. You will receive. And I love the expression, and there's nothing wrong with the expression law of attraction, which is very, very popular at one point in time. I kind of play on that a little bit. I love to play on that and say, try to have the law of allowing.
Mm, I
I
love
want
that.
want you to allow yourself to receive what is your divine right to receive.
You
You
know,
don't
and
have to earn it.
and it's another thing that I talk about too, and kind of, I want to get your take. This, we're coming up on the end of our segment here, but one of the things that I always like to say is so many times, and I work in this entrepreneurial small business space, both men and women, we're all so busy, and sometimes we're also busy being productive. Sometimes you just have to get that button there, and you have to press it, and you should be pressing periodically that stop button, and have the quiet, that quiet time, that quiet space that allows you to actually let the universe fill you back up. Because if sometimes if we're always driving without that stop button, it's almost kind of looks like avoidance of many things that we could also be accepting and allowing, isn't it?
100%. I'm so glad that you said that. Seriously, Robert, because that's one of the things that I work with my clients so much, is they're so busy doing. If you think about it, they're pushing and pushing and doing. They miss what's already right there, right by them.
Oh,
If they would just rest and see it.
Absolutely. Again, everyone, I'm with Molly Ann Summers. She's the founder and owner of Summers for Direction and Healing. She is a certified professional coach in business and in life. And believe me, I'm so excited to talk more about her life in the next segment. She's also an energy healer. And this is a term that's starting to come into our world. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. She has been guided by Jack Canfield, John Demartini, and Alan Cohen as a few. And I am so excited that she's here on today's show. Thank you, Molly Ann.
Thank you.
And now we're going to take a little short break for a commercial, believe it or not, which is always fun too. That's such a fun little, like, it's like a story, with the music and the vibration, and everyone who doesn't know who we are, that is what we do. It's our goal to create awareness for every person and every business who comes onto our stage, who gets onto our media and also gets in front of our chapter audiences. Again, I am here with Molly Ann Summers. She's founder and owner of Summers Direction for Healing. And we are in our second segment. And I wanted to celebrate you, Molly Ann, in this segment. I wanted to give you a little bit of a gift. And I really don't do this very often. And it meant a lot to me because much of the time I say this in the business world, your favorite people, your advocates will sell you better than you can sell you. And I always say that. I always say if you're going to walk across the stage, bring as many, peeps with you as possibly can, because there's always that time when they say that magical statement up on stage and someone's in that audience and they lean over and they say, "Is that really true?" And the other person says, "Yes, I'm being coached by her," or "I'm being coached by him." Don't misapply the power of a powerful audience of wonderful raving fans. And one of the things that you talk about, Marianne, is you talk about connection, of course, art of connection. That's my first love. You talk about communication and you talk about empathy. And what really caught me, on your website, and I wrote it down here in my notes, is for some people, they have this statement that plays like a bad record in their mind, and that's, "I don't know where to even start." And I wanted you to comment on that really quickly. What does that mean to you when a man or a woman, they state that to you, and how does that affect your mind and your heart when you hear it?
I relate to it so much, and that's where I come from. That's why I call it Summers for Direction and Healing, because that's what I do is I help people with direction on where to start and where they can go, just by having a sense of self and a sense of priorities, and we work through all of that. But the core thing, again, Robert, 100% that I work with first and foremost is for people to really get that they have a divine right to be here. They don't have to earn it. They deserve to be happy. So many people feel that they just aren't deserving to be happy. And that's the fundamental core. Until you get that and they really get that, then they're not going to be motivated to do more for themselves.
And and many times some of these thoughts, they gets trapped in us, almost in our body, our physical sense, and then it comes back out. And sometimes I feel like, we can even use it as energy in ourselves, and we get this negative energy coming out, and it really is just the storage of the place and time where, maybe a parent said you're going to be a no good, or maybe a teacher said you're never going to get into a college, or maybe a man told his wife that, you're not going to be accepted as a professional accountant. We all store everything, but that doesn't mean we have to be trapped by everything. And this is what I wanted to do for you, Molly, is I wanted to give you and share with you some of the things that people say. One of your clients says Molly tackles the causes of your problems rather than simply solving an individual problem by itself. I love that. Another client said, I deeply value the time we spent together and the tremendous progress she has helped me make in my life. And another person said, Molly allows you to find the answers you already have within yourself in order to process your emotions and move forward. And so I am saying this to you because I want you to grab that and accept all of that, because this is what you've done for your raving fans, is you've brought them to a place of a higher level of allowing, and tell me a little way, and how does that make you feel now when you hear these things?
Robert, I can't even tell you. It's very emotional. I do this 100% because I will explain in a little bit what was the turning point, but I so much know how important relationship is. And every single client I have, there's a relationship on some level. And that's, to me, just the most important thing in the world. And so when I know that they appreciate that, oh my gosh.
And you should hear it, because I think what you do is, I believe when you set someone free, they can do anything. One of the things I talk about is, like, I talk about the theory of blankets. And what happens over life is another blanket comes on, and another blanket comes on, and another blanket comes
Mhm,
on, and another blanket comes on, and all of a sudden we become so weighted down.
mhm.
We forgot that, we don't have to be weighted down by all these blankets. We also have the power of, starting to take these blankets and lifting them off. And so much of the time, aren't we trained to take on stuff? But many times we're not trained to let it go, are we?
Now you're getting in the area of the energy work that I do, Robert. Very much so. Do you want me to talk about the energy work now, or are we going to do that a little later? Because you're really getting um, to the essence of what the energy work is about when you're
So,
talking about these layers and the
and
transformations.
absolutely. And what I really want to talk about is what's really fascinating, and that is the epiphany. That is a light bulb moment in your life when you said, "This is who I was, and I did many things, but underneath, you know who you are." And when did that come to you? When did you say, "You know what? Hey, I've worked for different companies. I've had different strengths. I've been employed in different ways." But then all of a sudden, there was that breaking point, and all of a sudden you said, "You know what? I got it. I've been a shell of me, but now I'm going to be the all of me." When you became that coach, when you became that healer, that's what I really want to hear about. What did that look like? Because that is the impact point that I love to hear.
Wow, Robert, I had a very specific thing happen to me that was the turning point in my life. I had been a military spouse for many years. I had had many good jobs. I worked as executive secretary in the Silicon Valley. I worked in Seattle for a seafood company as the executive secretary. But anyway, the event that happened that changed my life and totally changed my direction was in 2009. I'll try to be brief about it. We were moving again with the military from Wisconsin back to California, and we were on the highway in Omaha, Nebraska. My
Oh,
my former husband was in the U-Haul truck in front of us, and my 15-year-old son and I were in the car. Fortunately, my son closed the moonroof on the car because about 10 minutes later, we were hit from behind with such impact. I tried to keep the car from going into oncoming traffic, and I had just succeeded in doing that when we were hit a second time at twice the impact.
Oh my.
And I was hit by an 18-wheeler double trailer semi truck. It hit us so hard, Robert, that you couldn't see the car from the highway later. Okay. We're going through the air. And this is the part that's really relevant to why I do what I do. Oftentimes people say that your life comes before you. If it did with me, it was only to the extent that I realized what a waste. How much time we waste worrying about things that really don't matter. They really don't matter at the end of the day. And anyway, we landed, we rolled and we flipped, and we landed upside down, and the car was so far down into the ground you couldn't even find my door, let alone open it. This is where the miracle comes in, and I totally believe in guardian angels. I look over and I'm literally upside down backwards, and so is my son, both of us with our feet over the back of the seats to the car. And I look over, and there's this gentleman looking in the window, and he was as white as a ghost. He almost passed out when he saw us.
Oh my.
And after he got us out of the car, and he took us over away from the car because there was smoke coming out of it. He was an off-duty ambulance driver. He'd already called us in DOA. He said, "There's no way we survived this. No way. Absolutely." And then the next thing, my second guardian angel, all of a sudden there's somebody right there taking my vitals and my son's vitals, a registered nurse on the way to the hospital, and saw the accident. And she came running up with her equipment and was making sure we were stable. And then the third guardian angel was a woman that came running up the embankment, and I can't repeat exactly what she said.
Right.
But she said, that blankety blank truck driver kept going. And
Oh my.
You know what she did?
What did she
She
do?
went up ahead of him with her car and went like this and was calling the police, making him go so slow till they could come and stop him.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is just beyond Good Samaritan. That is just amazing. That is a guardian angel in
Yes.
that moment in time.
And I call it the biggest blessing of my life because, Robert, my son and I, we did not have a scratch on us, not a scratch. There was no way we should have survived, and we didn't have a scratch on us.
That is beyond incredible. But when these things happen, I mean, it's like the adrenaline of just your life must have been going through you, a fear, a hope, a hurt, like you said, the time, all the memory reels start coming at you at once. I mean, how did you get through that day?
My only place of fear was when I looked into my son's eyes, because obviously he was looking at me, and it does seem like it's minutes, not seconds. Like, what's going to happen when we land? I mean, because we were hit with such impact. So that was my fear, is I had no answer for him. But beyond that, Robert, honestly, what was going through my mind is, if I survive this, I am meant to survive this. And I'm going to do with my life what I know God wants to work through me to do.
Oh my goodness. I think that is phenomenal. So you probably were taken to the hospital. You probably were checked out, you and your son. I'm sure your husband at the time was there, but that pivotal point in your life, you talk about a pivot. That was a true pivot. That was a true change. From that point, how long did your change actually manifest until all of a sudden, you put on your clothing that day, and it was like you walked out that door, or you walked into your office, and you knew, you sat back and you said, I am where I'm meant to be. How long did that take? Was it a short time? Was it a process?
It was almost a year, but it was a
Mhm.
process from the very day I started reevaluating what was really important in life, what the priorities one needs to, in all of us in our life need to consider a priority. And financial comfort is not one of them. Relationship and valuing yourself. And I believe having God work through me was huge. And that was from day one. And to be able to get from that point to, where I wanted to ultimately be, where I knew I wanted to be, probably took about a year. I filed for divorce from my ex for many reasons, but relevant to having a clear understanding of prioritizing our life and putting value on where it's important. And then right after, as I believe God's work, right after my divorce, I was put in touch with Connie Costa, who I mentioned earlier, was
Yeah.
coach. And that was, I knew I wanted to do something, but working with her, the light came on. Yeah, I knew this is what I was going to do. 100%.
And really where it really leads me to me, Molly Ann, is this, so much of the time, when I'm working with people and I'm talking with people and they talk about transition, so much of the time they look at the transition of, on day one, I was this, and on day I was this something else. And I tell them, transition or being transitional, like we have 365 days of transitional quotes, doesn't mean immediate. Transitional just means that you had your first day that you stepped into yourself to start the process of transforming. One of the things I like to tell them is, so much of the time, even our book, what we have on the cover of the book is a butterfly, right?
Yes.
And right, and
Yes.
and so much of the time we think of, well, this caterpillar turns into this beautiful butterfly, and I tell them, it is wishful thinking that transition looks like that. And that's why I'm glad you said a year, because I said we don't think about the whole time frame of transition. It starts with an egg from a butterfly, it turns into a larva, which is a caterpillar, then it goes into a chrysalis, and then after it's ready, it breaks through that to fly as a butterfly. And I tell people, don't stop.
Every step in
yes,
that journey for that butterfly is so important to where they're going to be. So that's why don't rush it. Be guided and take the steps that you need to take to get there.
I mean, embrace every step. Yes. And that's what I see. That's what I see in you, Molly, is you that sometimes you have to be a little bit of a cheerleader too with the people that you're with, because you're there to keep them going when they feel like their legs are led. And and that is one of the things I love what you do. Well, I am here, and I'm going to put the information across here. I'm with Molly Ann Summers. She's founder and owner of Summers for Direction, and I love that in healing. She's a certified professional coach and energy healer. Please contact her at summersfordirection@gmail.com or call or text her at 951-470-1660. Molly, thank you so much. We'll take another break, and then we're going to get into a little bit more about what you do with your clients and how you can create that wow for them.
Thank you.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Oh my gosh, I am here with Molly Ann Summers, founder and owner of Summers for Direction and Healing. And my goodness, have we covered a lot so far, Molly Ann?
Yeah, and I want to say, Robert, I enjoy, and what I do is so important to me. I'm so grateful to you to give me this opportunity to share it. Thank you.
I am so grateful as well. I mean, it's just like I love it when I get to interview people who are living the life they love, and so much of us, we hear that word so much of the time, and sometimes I hear it and I just go like this, when people say love in the wrong way. I mean, we are talking about the love that gets you up in the morning, and sometimes it burns so bright it keeps you up at night, but for a good reason, doesn't it?
It's very inspiring,
it
it is.
it really is. I'm really interested because I have two hidden agendas right now, and I'm going to make them very, very public, and this is really interesting to me. You're in two areas. One of them is being a professional coach. And in that area, there has been a lot of watered down feeling of what a professional coach is like, because not all coaches are created equal, are they?
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, I'm a certified professional coach, and the difference between a certified coach and a certified professional coach is I actually have to have continuing education all the time to stay a professional certified coach. So I'm always growing and learning myself to be able
And
to stay in that as a professional
and
certified
and,
coach.
uh, and yeah, because I really I'm highlighting this because you're one of the few coaches who's come on to the show who actually has continuing education. That's a must to keep their credentials current.
Mhm.
And and I say that because you know I learned about coaching very early in my life. My mom, she was a part of Coach International when coaching first came in, and Coach International, you know what the aspects of it was is, the gentleman who started was a financial planner, and he thought to himself, people don't have a mathematical problem, they don't even have a financial problem most of the time, they really have a belief system problem. And I think one of the greatest things that any coach can do is to change the beliefs of the people that we're working with. And you do
Mhm.
this with individuals, you treat mind, heart, and even body space. And I think that's something that's very different. But you also can go into this other area, which is a spirituality, which I believe that we all have as well. I believe that we all have a soul, and while everything else will go away, won't it, Molly Ann? But that spirituality of us and being an energy healer, that matters too, doesn't it?
Yes, and it's very, very much a part of what I do. Um, I work as a life coach with many people. If I get a sense that there is more going on than that there's more going on that is in the core, from the core emotions that have been trapped, okay,
Hmm.
um, then that's when I will offer to work with them on the energy healing level. And it's called epigenetic energy
Hmm.
healing. And the reason is no, we can't change our DNA. We can't. But if you think about it, genes kind of ride piggyback in a sense on that, on our DNA. And what I do is I will work with someone and I get an idea of what their challenges are and why, where they feel stuck and the blocks that they have to be able to move forward, to be able to live the life they want to live. And then I connect to their subconscious. And this is important because the subconscious knows everything. The conscious mind, we we as human beings, we want an answer to something that's not right in our life. We want a justification. We want to know why. And when we're not given an apparent reason, we'll make one up ourselves. We'll start telling ourselves stories. And that's the conscious mind. So that's why I tap into the subconscious mind. And then I actually do the energy healing aspect of it is I kind of muscle test to see what emotions are blocked.
Hmm.
When we discover what emotions are blocked, then I test to see if it was trapped within the person's lifetime or if it might be something that they inherited. And I check to see if they inherited from their mom's side or their dad's side. And again, I do this through muscle testing and the energy work. All right. I see how many generations it was back. Then what I do is there's a process to that. I ask questions to get to that point, to muscle
Right.
test. I don't just automatically muscle test. I'm asking the subconscious certain questions, and then I muscle test to get that information. Okay, but once I know what emotion was trapped and where it's trapped from, then I release that using whatever the client's comfortable with. Some people are comfortable with God. Some people are comfortable with universe, a higher power. I release it with that. And it's really important, this aspect of it, because when I'm releasing, at the end of each emotion that I'm releasing, I use the term because it no longer serves you.
Mm-hmm.
Why that's so important is people so many times will judge themselves, Robert, for having an emotion. But that emotion, our subconscious created to protect us.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It was created to protect us. So I release it because it no longer serves you. Then there's a kind of a void, if you will. You kind of envision it like there's a part that came out of a wall that you built. I replace it with a positive emotion, again, using God or universe. And I replace it with the positive. And I do that with probably 3 or 4 different areas in one session that the individual is struggling with. And then I integrate their mind, body, and soul back as a whole.
You know, I really love that, and this is where I want to have more conversations with you, and maybe do some things to create some more expressions. You know, I get to see thousands of entrepreneurs and business owners, both men and women, young and old, from differing backgrounds. And one of the things that I always say is, like, so much of the time, you know, we spend all our life working on what we do, and we don't leave any time to work on who we are. And and you know, and here's the crazy thing about it. Even if you take it down into mathematics, you know, working on what you do is your skill set. But to really drive the skill set, you have to have a proper mindset. But even before then, my saying for the longest of time is, you know, you have to have your heart set before you can build your mindset, and
Yes,
then you'll go work on your skill set.
absolutely, absolutely, yes.
You know, and see, this is what I want entrepreneurs to know, and this is kind of like the the conversation that, you know, I'm driving for you and I to have, you know, right here in the show is, you know, for entrepreneurs and business owners that think that this is woo-ha, you know, you don't understand what truly being prosperous is. You don't really understand that there's more than, you know, return on investment. You know, to have a full life, it's having a return on energy, where investment is something that is a part of that. And see, you know, in my world, you know, what Molly Ann does is, you know, she helps people drive a better heart set, you know, you know, which delivers the mindset in her coaching. So then all of a sudden you can go out to life at your 100% and not your 65 or your 70 or your 80%. And that's why, you know, for me, you know, Molly Ann Summers is so very important in the entrepreneurial community, because for many of us, you know, professional development is only good if you use it, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And much of the time
You
we
have all
don't,
the tools in the world, but you need to know and you need to trust yourself to apply them. And I guide you on how to apply those tools.
absolutely, and I see it so clearly with me, and I know sometimes, you know, my wife calls it, she says, you know, some people, they think it's woohoo, and they think it won't serve them, and they think it's something that just won't apply, or it just takes up too much time. But really what you're doing, Molly Ann, it's like Stephen Covey. He says you have to spend a little bit of time aside to sharpen that saw. And if you can just take that one day every week, or even that 1 or 2 hours every morning to sharpen your soul, to sharpen your heart, won't we grow much better as entrepreneurs and business owners?
Absolutely. And I have worked with many entrepreneurs that might come with me as a coach. But as we have conversations and they understand more, they actually are very open to receiving the energy work, and they see that it's not woo woo. And very much, if we're going to look at it, Einstein said, if you take us down to our smallest point, we are energy. So we can have it as a scientific aspect. But yeah, energy and our essence is so much a part of who we are.
And it's really amazing because I love to think of Einstein, and I love to think about how he looked at everything that is around in our world, that every atom, and molecule and element, they're really all just vibrations of energy in their own particular space, and it's all those energies that create what we think of as solid, and what we think of as liquid, and what we think of as steam. And I think sometimes we really forget. I mean, really, sometimes, not all of us. You get people that come in and they probably are just like open hearts, and you probably get other ones and they're just like, man, it doesn't affect me, right? Don't you?
One of the things that brings them around in terms of energy and people is I ask them, have you ever been in a room and someone comes in that you've never met before and they just light up your life? You just
Mhm.
get such amazing energy from them. That's energy.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that they were able to get it then, I think.
It's so funny. I remember at one of our networking meetings one time, and I think my son was 11 years old at the time, and I'd asked a question. I had him come to the event, and you never know what an 11-year-old's going to do in that particular time and space. Are they gonna make you look, like fabulous and wonderful, Dad, or are they gonna make you look like, oh my goodness, this dad needs a lot of work? And so I asked a question, and I said, what is the most important thing that a networker can bring into a room? And oh my goodness, Molly, and some of your cell phone, your 30-second commercial, your business card, a nice flyer, a nice special, And I saw this kid, he kept raising his hand, It happened to be my son, and I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know if I'm going to call," but the peer pressure of the room finally made me call him, and he stood up, and he spoke, and he said, "The most important thing, Dad, is a smile."
I love
And
that.
it quieted the whole room, and
Yes.
and and it shocked me, and I stopped for a second, and I saw everyone else was like shocked, and then they all started clapping. It was like there was this like a
You
hundred
nailed
minute
it.
pause. Yeah, it's probably only a second or two. And then it died down, and I asked him, I said, "Well, why do you say that? Why is it a smile?" And he says, it's the, what did he say? He said a smile because he says it's the first thing that everyone will see when you walk into a room.
You
And
have an
I
extremely insightful young man.
and it, you know and it just it and actually, that was like one of the first times I really thought about, in certain ways, what is the factor? It's the difference between being, closed and open. It's the difference between accepting and non-acceptance. It's the difference between knowing that, all these energies, from physical to spiritual to emotional, and mental, we're all interconnected, aren't we?
Absolutely. And, there's another expression, if you'll forgive me, I want to share that a miracle, and I believe this so totally, a miracle is a shift from fear to love.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm hoping I'm going to get that into this 365 days of transformational quotes, Marianne, because that is a wonderful quote. I love that. When I sit down and if I'm going to take, let's say, individual coaching or individual healing, what do those sessions look like for someone who may have not done this before?
Oh, yes, thank you. Well, first, I always offer a complimentary consultation where I
Mm.
find out what it is that they are looking for. And um, if I get a sense that they are open to the energy healing, I will pretty much explain to them what I just explained to you on here.
Sure.
Okay. Um, if I get a sense that they're right now they're in a space where they just want some direction, okay,
Hmm.
then I will, during that consultation, I'll talk to them about what is it they're looking for, where do they feel they need direction, and I have a very definitive process that I take them through, and it will every time though start with understanding their true value and knowing their values. And that's where the work, if I may mention him, Dr. John Demartini, the work I did with him is so valuable because he always talks about know your values. And it's kind of similar to the 5 love languages, to the extent that if you know and truly know your values, and by that, what matters to you, and then you understand what matters to them, you can learn to speak to that and honor both of each other's values. And it makes such a world of difference in communicating.
Well,
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's so true because I know my values, and you know yours, and all of a sudden you can actually, I think we understand the limitations. We also understand probably the boundaries and what we can and can't offer and not offer to each other. One of the things is we can do I mean, one of the things I even tell my kids, I said, yes, we can do anything and we can do everything, but that doesn't mean we do anything and everything, because
Exactly.
anything and everything might not be acceptable to the person across from us. And
Exactly.
and I
Yes.
think that's so needed in business
Yes.
too, isn't it?
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. When you really understand what the person across the table, if you will, what really matters to them, and you can speak to that, then they're going to hear you. They're not going to be putting up walls or defenses because they know that you heard them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's so important, and that's something else that I think that goes along with acceptance. And that is what you just said. It's being heard. And so much of the time, that's why I always say, people want to know your who and your why before you get to your what and your how, because it's the who and the why. That's the place where we can actually come to the table no matter what, always as equals, not as vendor, vendee, or interviewer, interviewee, or person who sells products and person who buys products, but just coming together, you know, in the set of we're just, people. And I think sometimes, in sales, we tend to forget that, don't we?
I at one point in time I agreed with you.
Yeah.
I used to look on it as sales, and I would rather have root canal than to sell anything,
Well,
honestly.
yeah.
But with what happened and the shift that I had, and the fact that I truly do believe that I'm a conduit for God, okay, I don't feel that I'm trying to sell anybody, and I wouldn't. I've actually had clients that I have said, I'm not going to work with you and waste your time and money if you aren't open to honoring yourself and receiving your true values, because until you can do that, I'm wasting your money and your time. So yeah, that's the most important thing.
And thank you so much for that, because people who really want to help, people who really seek to be hired, are really the ones that put others first in a selfless way, and in a way of service that doesn't take away from their own values, character, and convictions. And one of the things I say is, Oh my goodness, passion isn't success. Passion with conviction is success. Because without conviction, passion is just criminal. And I always believe, being beings of God, and I like to say that, there is a part of us that should be serving everyone in that space and not to fear it. Oh my goodness, Molly Ann, thank you so much for being on our show today. You are a delight. I've learned so much. I have like 3 pages of notes. And if you see my head go down, I want you to know it's not because I'm bored. It's because I'm writing something down that you said. And I want to remember these things. And do you have anything? I'm going to put your information across the screen for everyone. Again, I'm with Molly Ann Summers. She's founder and owner of Summers for Direction. Okay, there you healing. She's certified professional coach and energy healer. You can contact her at her email address or text or call her at 951-470-1660. Any last things you'd like to say to our audience, Molly Ann?
100%. I want everyone, regardless of what they feel they can afford or not afford in life, and whether it's working with me or someone else, I want you to trust and value yourself enough to invest in yourself. Because until you invest in yourself and your peace of mind, it's not going to come together for you.
Absolutely. And remember, Molly Ann does gift a consultation, I believe a 30-minute consultation to see if there is a value point and connection there before she serves you. Again, Molly Ann, thank you so much for being on the show today. You're a delight. I appreciate you so much. And you know what? I always say, like Doritos, we can always make more. So let's do this again sometime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Again, I was with Molly Ann Summers. She is a certified professional life coach and energy healer. She can help you with the heart set, the mindset, the skill set. That's the way I like to put it. But she has a vast background and experience, including a life and death experience. She's been touched by angels, and she has so much to give and so much more than I could even provide in this small ending. Remember, we're here each and every week from 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, or PDT, something like that. But, whatever Los Angeles and San Diego is, we're that, because we're this maverick state that, half the year on Mountain Standard Time and half the year we're on Pacific Standard Time. Everyone make it a great day. You have places to go and things to do, but you took your time and you took your space and you spent it with us. And I want to say thank you for that. To everyone, have a great week. Thank you so much.
You've been watching the iNetrepreneur Show, a production of the iNetrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.